Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. Welcome to another of my video game movie reviews. Today's video game movie review, I take a look at the 2010 video game adaptation Tekken. The film is directed by Dwight H. Little and it stars Jonathan Patrick Fu, Kelly Overton, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, Ian Anthony Dale, Kong Lee, Darren Dewitt Henson, Luke Goss, and Gary Daniels. Right, okay. Now, this was sent to me recently by my friend over at Geek Legion of Doom, Leo. I recently put up on the channel a collection update video where I showed everything that Leo very kindly sent me, and this was one of them. So this has allowed me to watch this one and do a review of it, because Leo knows that I do a series of film reviews on my channel where I dedicate them to like video game movies, because I do a lot of game reviews on this channel as well, so I'm doing some video game movie reviews. So Tekken came out in 2010. And for those of you who have never played a Tekken game, what is Tekken? Well, it is exactly that. It's a fighting game, primarily on the PlayStation. It's a game that I go way back to. I remember very, very clearly playing and enjoying the first three Tekken games, certainly, on the original PlayStation and PlayStation 2. I think the first three. I could be wrong on that, certainly with the third one. And I remember playing them and having a great time with those games when I was younger with my brother. My favourite character was Martial Law, who was basically a rip-off of Bruce Lee. But there was loads of iconic characters, and there still is. The game is still going strong today. Tekken 7, I think, is the latest release that came out about 4 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it's a game I haven't played. I haven't played the Tekken game, or really any fighting games, for a number of years now. I've kind of outgrown them. I don't really have the patience for them. But this movie is based on this popular game, and it focuses on Jonathan Patrick Fu's character, Jin Kazama. And in this film, his mother, who taught him martial arts, is killed at the beginning by a big corporation called Tekken. Now, this is set in the near future where the world has basically been taken over by big corporations. There's like 5 or 6 global corporations that run the world. And the most powerful one is Tekken, which is based in the US. And every year they run a tournament called the Iron Fist Tournament. And the winner of that tournament, is, enriched and all this kind of stuff. So Jin then decides to enter this tournament to get revenge on the Tekken Corporation, who essentially killed his mother. So he manages to get into this tournament as an outsider, as like the people's choice. He enters like a fight, and if he wins it, he kind of gets like a pass into the tournament as the people's choice. So he wins that, gets into the tournament, and then plans to take down Tekken from the inside, sort of thing. It's that sort of movie. Right, so what are my thoughts on Tekken? Well, to be honest, I remember when this came out all them years ago, and I was aware of the film coming out. I never watched it at the time because I was aware it wasn't really getting very good reviews, and I wasn't a massive fan of Tekken, even back when this came out in 2010. I think if this film had come out when I was in my late teens sort of thing, I probably would have been quite excited to check it out, I'm guessing. But I certainly wasn't interested when it first came out anyway. But it's a film that I've kind of had on my list to watch for my video game movie review series. Like I say, I was aware it existed. And as video game adaptations go, this is certainly well made. It's got a good budget behind it, this film. It's got some recognizable names in it, and it just kind of hovers underneath like a big budget type release. It feels like a B movie when you watch it, but it feels like a B movie with good production values, if that makes sense. There's lots of explosions at the beginning, all this kind of stuff, and it kind of devolves into chaos. But I think the set designs is decent, all that kind of stuff, and the fight choreography is pretty good as well. Now, I'm Dwight H. Little. I'm aware of that name. I think certainly one thing that pops into my mind that he directed was Marked for Death with Steven Seagal. So he's aware of how to kind of film these sort of things. And the fight scenes are certainly very entertaining for the most part. But I think if it maybe they'd have been choreographed by maybe someone a little bit more skilled, or at times the editing's too fast and there's too many close-ups sometimes in some of the fights. But they are quite fun. They are quite brutal, and there are many characters here who obviously appear in the video games. Most notably, obviously, Jin, and then you've got Haishi, played by Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, who obviously as well appeared in the Mortal Kombat film. And then you've got Kazuha, you've got, who else have we got? We've got Brian Fury, you've got a few fighters that you'll recognise here in the film, but I do think there are some notable absences. I would have liked to have seen Paul Phoenix and maybe a couple of others make the appearance here, but they don't. But it was overall, I think, a pretty entertaining film with some nice fight scenes. The stuff in between the fight scenes is pretty bad, pretty dull. The talky bits, as I like to call them in these sort of films, they just didn't really work. There's a couple of cringy, not really sex scenes, but like, you know, kissing scenes and insinuating that they're having sex sort of thing, that the film just didn't need. There's a cringy dance scene in a nightclub the film really didn't need. The love interest between Jin and another character the film just didn't need. And I think the film probably would have been better if it focused more heavily on the conflict between father and son, like the head of Tekken and his son, and the family drama between them and Jin, which in reality it does connect very heavily to the games. So I think if they'd have expanded more on, you know, Tekken, maybe given us a bit more backstory on the Iron Fist tournament, maybe focused a little bit more on the tournament, because it's one of those tournament type movies where you see someone fight in the semi-final, but you've not seen them fight in any other round. Didn't make any sense. So the structure of the tournament didn't make sense, and it just it felt like a plot device for the movie rather than anything else. Now, when you watch a tournament movie like Bloodsport and things like that, you know, you can follow the tournament and follow the fighters, and you know who's going to be in the final for the most part. And that's no different here, but you still want to see the journey of them getting to the final. And you do see that with Jin to a large degree, but you don't see that with a lot of the other fighters, which I thought was a little bit of a shame. But I think as a video game adaptation, this isn't half bad. It's certainly watchable. I enjoyed aspects of this. I thought obviously the dialogue and the script was pretty poor, but that's hard really when you're trying to make a movie out of a fighting game. How do you do that, and how do you do it effectively? So I think they did a reasonable job here. It is certainly not as bad as I expected, if I'm being honest, but it is certainly not a classic or a modern classic at all. And it is certainly worth checking out if you haven't seen it and you're a fan of the Tekken games, for example. So thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful. I will, of course, be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.